Sometimes it feels like we're just swimming in this huge ocean of self-help advice, right? And trying to find the truly useful stuff.
Well, it can feel like searching for a needle in a haystack.
Uh-huh. It really can. Overwhelming.
So for this deep dive, we wanted to cut through some of that noise. Focus on a framework that's gotten a lot of attention, and it comes from someone, well, pretty unique.
Absolutely. We're not chasing the latest fad here. We want something grounded, principles that have actually been battle-tested, you could say.
Exactly. And that's why we're taking a close look at Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, Be Useful, 7 Tools for Life. Now, I know what some people might be thinking, Mr. Universe, Conan, the Governator. What can he really tell me about being useful?
And that's a fair question. But what's really compelling about this book, I think, is it's not just stories. Schwarzenegger looks back on his life and he breaks it down into these 4 acts, as he calls them.
Right, the bodybuilding, the acting, then public service, and now this sort of guidance role based on everything he's learned. Yeah, and he's pretty open about it. He talks about this period after leaving the governor's office where things felt like they were crashing down.
Yeah, I remember reading that. Despite, achieving some big things, those last few years were tough. The financial crisis didn't help either. He really paints a picture of feeling kind of lost.
He does. And he doesn't avoid the personal stuff either. But the key thing he noticed then, and I think a lot of us can relate, is this weird disconnect. Objectively, the world's getting better in many ways. Health, tech, less of certain conflicts.
People still feel unsatisfied, down.
Exactly. That gap between external progress and internal well-being. So he felt he needed to share the principles, the blueprint, he calls it, that helped him navigate all those different phases and find purpose, find usefulness.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then, to really unpack those 7 tools he talks about.
Right. We want to go beyond just listing them. We want to figure out how you, the listener, can actually take these ideas and, use them, whatever your goals are. Actionable stuff, not just theory.
All right, let's kick things off. Tool number 1, have a clear vision. Sounds simple, maybe even obvious, but Schwarzenegger really hammers home how vital it is to know exactly what you want. To zoom in, he says.
Precisely. And his own life is the prime example. He says even when he was just 15, he knew he wanted to go to America, didn't have every step planned, but that core vision, that was his North Star.
And the details he describes, they're incredible. For bodybuilding, he didn't just want to be big. He saw himself on the podium feeling the trophy.
Vivid.
And for acting, seeing his name, huge above the movie title. For politics, sitting behind the governor's desk, really specific mental images.
And this is where he makes a key distinction, I think. It's not just wishful thinking, not woo-woo stuff.
Right.
It's about making that vision so real in your head that it becomes this powerful driver. It shapes your planning, fuels the hard work. It's like programming your brain's GPS, a clear destination.
You got to see it to believe it. And then that belief makes you act. He mentions elite athletes doing this all the time. Michael Phelps visualizing every single split time.
Yeah, or golfers like Jason Day, seeing the ball's flight path. F1 drivers mentally running the track over and over. It's detailed mental rehearsal, not just vague hopes.
And here's another crucial part he adds. Knowing what you don't want. That's just as important.
Filtering.
Yeah. It helps you say no to things that might look good, but pull you off course. Like when he turned down that Jack LaLanne spokesman gig. It was money, sure, but it wasn't the movie star vision.
That's a great example. Sticking to the plan because the vision was so clear. No detours, even attractive ones.
Right, that internal compass. Yeah. So for you listening, maybe take a second. What do you actually see? When you picture success, what are the specifics? It's a powerful exercise.
Okay, building right on that clear vision comes tool number 2. Never think small. This is all about pushing past limits, thinking bigger.
Yeah, and he's pretty forceful about this one. He basically says if you aim low, you're kind of guaranteeing you won't achieve much.
It's almost like self-sabotage by low expectations. And he points out it affects others too, not just you. Your smaller goal might limit your potential impact.
He uses that shoot for the moon idea, but flips it. Aiming small inherently limits you. If your goal is just, say, Mr. Austria.
Which was his starting point.
Right. But his real aim was Mr. Olympia, world stage. So even if he'd fallen short of Olympia, aiming that high meant he'd achieve way more than just the local title.
Totally. And look at James Cameron with Titanic. This is a sheer scale of that vision. The details, the ambition, that's never think small in action, right? You see it in the results.
Definitely. But thinking big means facing the fear of failure, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He acknowledges that. Aiming high means you might not quite hit the bullseye, but he reframes failure. It's not the end, it's part of the process. That the potential win is worth the risk of stumbling.
And he talks about naysayers, people telling you it's impossible.
Yeah, his advice. Ignore them. Or even better, use their doubt as fuel.
Mm-hmm.
He mentions journalists laughing when he said he wanted to be a leading actor. That just made him work harder.
Which leads to that idea of no plan B. That one's a bit intense.
It is. It's controversial. His point is that having a backup plan can dilute your focus on plan A. It gives your doubts a place to live. He calls it a plan for failure.
Wow. Okay. Strong stance. The total commitment then. No safety net forces you to make plan A work.
That seems to be the idea. Unwavering focus. He tells that story about Sir Edmund Hillary. After climbing Everest, his first thought was, what's the next mountain?
Always pushing.
Exactly. And breaking barriers creates ripples. His success brought other Austrians over. Breaking the 500-pound bench press barrier inspired others. Thinking big expands what everyone thinks is possible.
So his question to the listener is why settle for the middle? Why not aim for something truly significant?
Which brings us neatly to tool number 3, the engine behind it all. Work your butt off. Vision is great, thinking big is great, but without the work.
Just a nice idea, yeah. And he embodies this. His bodybuilding routine. 5 hours a day, double splits. The sheer volume, it's legendary, almost inhuman.
But the crucial thing is, he applied that same intensity everywhere. Acting, hours of classes, script study, perfecting stunts, politics. He dove in, learned the whole system, total immersion.
So the point of all that hard work isn't just about the immediate goal, right? It's about being ready.
Exactly. Ready for the opportunity when it comes, or ready for the crisis when it hits. You build that deep competence.
He uses that analogy from firearms training. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast.
Yeah, I love that. Practice the fundamentals obsessively, even slowly, until they're second nature. Then, under pressure, you're fast and effective.
Wow.
Think about first responders, the endless drills.
Or John Coltrane, the jazz musician. All that incredible improvisation came from years of just fanatical practice. Scales, chords, patterns, the hard graft behind the genius.
Totally. It's the same for Steph Curry. Messy. Incredible talent, yes, but built on what Arnold calls the shitty hard work. The reps, the drills, the stuff nobody sees.
And it often hurts, right? He mentions John Milius pushing him hard on the Conan set. It's not always fun.
No, growth rarely is comfortable. So the question back to the listener is, are you really putting in the work your vision demands? The unglamorous, difficult work?
Okay, tool 4. We all hit walls. Rejection. His advice. Don't take no for an answer.
Right. He reframes no. It's often not a final stop sign. It's more like, not yet, or not this way.
He talks about his time as governor, facing resistance from the legislature. Lots of no's.
But the key was persistence. Finding different angles, different arguments, building coalitions, not just banging your head against the same wall.
That redistricting reform example is perfect. Initial attempts failed. Big no. But he didn't quit. He tweaked it, kept pushing, and eventually got a major win.
It shows how persistence, combined with adaptation, pays off. And sometimes a perceived failure can actually open doors later.
Like that special election loss in 2005, a definite setback.
Yeah, but he argues it led to more bipartisan work later and helped him get reelected. So when you hear no, the question is, how do you pivot? How do you keep going?
Which flows right into tool number 5. Shift gears. Sometimes persistence isn't enough. You need to change course. Adaptability.
Exactly. And his reaction during the early COVID crisis is a powerful example, seeing the ventilator and PPE shortages.
Instead of just getting angry or frustrated.
He shifted, used his network, partnered with Flexport, and boom, started getting supplies moving, from problem identification to active solution finding.
It's about fighting that negativity bias too, isn't it? Our tendency to dwell on the bad.
Yes. He stresses consciously choosing a positive, solution-focused mindset, seeing challenges as opportunities to adapt and learn.
The whole I'll be back mentality, reframing failure. He even uses that 2005 election loss again here, showing how learning from it led to later success.
So when you hit a major roadblock, how do you adjust? How do you learn from it and find a new path forward? That's the essence of shifting gears.
Tool 6. Break the rules. This one's about challenging the status quo.
Yeah, questioning that phrase, that's how things have always been done. He says that's like one of his 7 dirty words.
I like that. He argues people resist change mostly out of fear.
Right, pretty much. Fear of the unknown, fear of disruption. And he gives examples of rule breaking from his own life. Bodybuilding. training twice a day when everyone else did once.
Acting. Becoming a leading man despite the accent and physique, which were totally against the mold back then.
And in politics, making bipartisan appointments, shaking things up, all departures from the norm.
So his advice is basically, don't get bogged down by people stuck in the past. Find the people focused on progress.
Right. Connect with the forward thinkers. And he reframes risk, too. He says it's often just a perception. What do you really have to lose by trying something new? Look at his career shifts, huge perceived risks, but he took them.
So what rules in your own world are maybe holding you back? What's worth challenging?
And that leads us to the final tool, number 7, which feels like it ties everything together. Give back.
Yeah, using your success, your abilities, whatever you have to help others. It feels really central to his whole message.
It really does. And he pushes back hard against that self-made myth. He's very clear. He had help, lots of it. And he believes we have responsibility to pay that forward.
He even cites the science, right? Like that Harvard study showing giving actually boosts your own happiness.
Exactly. It's not just altruism. It benefits the giver, too. And he makes it accessible, addresses that feeling of, I don't have enough to give.
Right. It doesn't have to be huge donations. Helping with groceries, listening to a friend, volunteering time, tutoring, even picking up trash. Simple things.
He shares stories of everyday people making a difference, cleaning streets, organizing local groups. It's inspiring. And he encourages thinking about who helped you and how you can do the same for someone else.
And his own record speaks for itself. Special Olympics, after-school all-stars, his institute, climate work.
Yeah.
It's a long-term commit.
Yeah. And the message is powerful. Even small acts matter. They ripple outwards. Like an Eagle Scout project starts small, impacts the community. So the question is, how can you start giving back, even in a small way, today?
Okay, so let's recap those 7 tools. Have a clear vision. Never think small. Work your butt off. Don't take no for an answer. Shift gears. Break the rules. And give back.
They really are interconnected principles, aren't they? A whole toolkit for living a useful life, as he puts it.
And what's great is how adaptable they feel. They're not just for, future governors or movie stars. They apply to anything.
Absolutely. Whatever you're aiming for, career, personal growth, community impact, this framework offers solid guidance.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe something to chew on for everyone listening. What's one small thing you could do today, like right now, to be a little more useful to yourself or someone else?
And thinking about these 7 tools, which one really clicks with you right now, where you are in your life? Maybe that's the best place to start applying these ideas. Just pick one.